Yo, what's up everybody? It's your boy Jersey Puffs here. I am going to finally talk about the new update for Rainbow Six Siege, and it is called Skull Rain. Skull Rain is completely based off of Brazil. The new map is called Favelas, and the two new operatives are called Capitao, which is an attacker, and the defender is Caveira. And I will speak more on the operatives a little bit more later, after I speak about the map first. The first little titty bits of this video will be mostly just the map, me showcasing the map. It's not really good gameplay of any sort, just to show you guys how dense and how detailed this map is. In fact, this is probably the most detailed map and the most colorful map that Rainbow Six Siege has to offer. Now, this is a good thing and a bad thing. This map is super detailed and super condensed that it becomes a little bit claustrophobic, especially if you're a defender, and it becomes a little overwhelming, to be honest. In fact, every time I played this map, everybody groans, "Oh boy, this map again," and somebody usually ends up quitting because this map is just too overwhelming. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's not a bad map. It is absolutely not a bad map. But unfortunately, it's just not a good map either. It's just way too overwhelming. There's way too many things going on in this map, and it becomes really claustrophobic, especially if you're a defender. I mean, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in this map. There's so many corners and there's so many rooms and interiors that if you are not checking literally every single corner and every single room, you will get ganked and you will get surprise attacked, and most likely you will rage quit. I absolutely love the idea behind this map. They wanted to make it extremely destructible. In fact, every single player that plays Rainbow Six Siege wants a map that is completely destructible. I mean, almost every single wall that you can see in this gameplay is potentially destructible, and that attackers and defenders can approach from, and which makes it that every single area may or may not be safe. There is not one right way to set up a defensive perimeter for this map, and there's no wrong way to set it up either, but the operatives do matter for each side. The best operatives that I feel personally that you should use if you're defending are Bandit, Jaeger, Mute, and maybe a Castle, and obviously you should always have a Rook in the mix. Now, obviously, you don't really have to use those guys specifically, but if you want to win, if you want to be competitive about it, you have to use those guys for this map specifically, which kind of sucks because there isn't a whole lot of balance for this map. I mean, you can go ahead and use Smoke, you can go ahead and use somebody else, you can use Caveira if you really want to, but unfortunately, those guys aren't really as useful for this map specifically. And that is another issue with this map. There's just way too much of a meta to play this map. For attacking, it's obvious that you want to always have a thermite for this map. And also having a Thatcher is extremely important. Having an IQ to make sure that you can counterattack, pulse, and having Ash to shoot down windows and barricades from afar without having to worry about Mute's charges. Sledge can also be an applicable operative for this map, of course. He doesn't necessarily have a special ability that would get jammed from Mute charges or anything like that. Also, now that I think about it, Glaz is also probably a really good character to choose if you are playing this map, so that way you can snipe from afar when everything starts getting blown up. And also, Buck would probably love playing this map if he was a real life person. He would probably be like, "Man, there's so many walls that I can punch open." Yeah, he's kind of really powerful for this map. And again, another issue with this map is that there isn't a whole lot of balance. Clearly there's more of a, let's just say, variety for the attacking team, but not so much for the defending team, which kind of sucks. And another glaring issue with this map is that when you're playing Bomb Site and even Hostage, this map isn't really that well thought out for those two types of game objectives. The best game objective or game mode that you should play if you're ever going to play this map is secure the objective. That is the best one. It's the easiest to defend, and that will leave your defending team to roam around freely without having to stay in one spot, because if you do leave that one spot while trying to defend a bomb or even a hostage, it kind of gets a little upsetting. Now, of course, you can say that the hostage would be great because that's just one person that you have to defend. Well, it also kind of sucks for the attacking team because they could easily get Capitao to burn the hostage if all the enemies are not necessarily camping the hostage but are around that area, and it gets really claustrophobic. You will definitely end up nading the crap out of the hostage, and you will end up shooting the hostage in general on accident. Obviously, with that being said, just don't nade the hostage. Don't fuse the hostage. But that, again, takes away some of the freedom because of the way that this map is tailored. It just doesn't provide you with a whole lot of things that you can do and approach it. It makes your grenades and your fuse charges completely useless, and makes it kind of useless to be that operative. Now, with securing the objective, you can blow that crap up. You can camp the objective if you are a defender. You can do whatever without having to worry about killing anything or worrying about being in two different spots. That is the reason why securing the objective is a lot better and a lot more. You get a lot more freedom with that. Of course, if you guys have played this map, then let me know what you guys think about Favelas. Put it in the comments below, and if you have anything to add or to counter argue my points, by all means do that. I would like to hear what you guys have to say, and it will probably give me a better perspective on the entire map itself. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about the operatives first with Caveira. First, I'm going to talk about her main abilities. She has two of them. Her first one is called Silent Step. It gives her the ability to sprint around the map super quietly, unless of course you have really good headphones, which I do not, so I can't confirm that entirely, but I've been told and what I've read is that if you do have good headphones, you can hear her, so that doesn't make her extremely powerful. When you activate Silent Step, your hands go up and your pistol comes out. You're not able to use your main weapon, which I kind of have an issue with, but you're pretty much walking around or running around with your pistol out, which is pretty powerful, to be honest. Her pistol can do from 99 damage to like less than 50 damage or something like that. I don't know what the numbers are, but there is a damage drop rate if you are extremely far, so you can't snipe with this gun. But if you're super close, it's basically having a shotgun to your face. But here's the thing. Her pistol is considered non-lethal, and that is with quotation marks. It is non-lethal because the second that you pretty much kill somebody or drop their health all the way down to 0, it will put them instantly into the down but not out position, thus giving her more of an opportunity to interrogate an enemy, which I will get into a little bit more later. Her pistol is actually pretty powerful, but you cannot add any attachments to it other than a laser sight, and that is about it. And it's not a good long-range weapon. It is pure and simply for CQC. Now, to be honest, I think this is a little weird, but hear me out. Caveira was designed specifically to be a roamer due to her game mechanics and her special abilities. It's weird because most of the operatives can be just fine roaming without having them to be designed to roam. For instance, you can roam with Castle just fine. You can roam around with Capcan just fine. You may not be super efficient because they're super loud, but they're not bad to roam around at all. And Pulse is sometimes even considered to be a defender or a support class, even though I only use him pure and simply just to roam around and try and get some easy kills. So since the developers try to focus mostly on Caveira being a roamer, I almost feel like that it makes her feel fairly imbalanced in a way. You don't really get that nice luxury of I could camp the objectives and be just fine, or I can roam if I really want to. Anybody who plays this game knows that this game, during the whole gameplay, things change pretty quickly. Sometimes I have a plan where I'm going to roam around, and then eventually just things start hitting the fan, and I'm like, okay, well, I got to go back to the objective and defend. I mean, you could easily be just fine defending and camping with Caveira, but I think that her strong focus on being a roamer actually kind of sets her back a little bit. I just feel like that she doesn't necessarily have the tools to roam proficiently. I mean, with Valkyrie, you can toss cameras, keep an extra camera and toss them around and get a good view over every single corner that you can have. Pulse has the heartbeat sensor and he could do whatever he wants. This could be a problem for me because I haven't been able to successfully be a really resourceful roamer with her. Now, I've already said this earlier that I didn't really agree when you have your pistol out when you use silent step. Sometimes it doesn't really matter when you use her pistol because in certain situations, especially when the enemy is super close to you, you can just spam your pistol while you're ADSing and you can do a ton of damage. I've done a ton of damage to multiple groups of enemies with her pistol alone. But when you have your primary weapon and you're sprinting and you're activating your silent step, it's not quick enough to deploy, and sometimes when you switch your weapon and you start sprinting, it kind of cancels it out and it gets really, really annoying because you have to stop if you have your primary out to switch to your weapon when you activate silent step. I really don't like that. It's not a fast enough deployment, in my opinion. I don't understand the entire mechanic behind silent step. I mean, it's easy to understand, but I feel like I'm not good enough yet when I'm using silent step. So maybe eventually everything will change the longer I play her, but as of right now, I really don't think silent step is that good of a mechanic. Her second ability, in which unfortunately I do not have a clip of me getting her ability to work, but she has the ability to interrogate someone who is in the down but not out position. Being in the down but not out position is the position in which you are able to get revived from another operative from your team, obviously. When you are interrogating an enemy operative, it puts you in a fixed animation, and when you are filling up that bar meter and you fully successfully interrogated somebody, it gives out the enemy's location. Kind of like when a defending operative goes outside of where they're not supposed to, and then it gives out their position. Kind of like that. It just has a highlighted name above the enemy, but not necessarily their silhouettes or exactly where they're looking at or what they're doing. It's an extremely high risk, high reward ability, and when you successfully do it without any other enemies around near you to pretty much kill you, your entire squad mates can see the position and the location of where the enemy is for about like 5 or 6 seconds, which can be extremely overpowered, and sometimes it can be underpowered. This is where I'm kind of about Caveira. I mean, I love that ability, but it's just too high risk that the reward may not even be worth it. But some can argue that it can, so that's why I'm kind of pulled apart with this new ability that she can do. Her two main weapons are a submachine gun, the M12, and she has a semi-automatic shotgun, the Spaz, pretty much similar to Valkyrie's Spaz weapon, but it has a clip that or a magazine that you can reload quickly and efficiently. I'm not so sure if her shotgun is better than her submachine gun, but I personally prefer her submachine gun over her shotgun. And sometimes it doesn't really matter, because when you go to silent step and you start roaming, you're pretty much always going to use your pistol anyways. Now that I am done bashing on Caveira, now we are going to move on to my favorite operative and the best part of the new update, Capitao. Yes, Capitao. I am the Capitao now. You heard that meme, right? Anyways, it's a really good meme and a good movie. But I do, in fact, really do enjoy Capitao. He actually has, in my personal opinion, better primaries than Caveira, both of them, in which that I find them both fairly applicable in most situations, but I mainly use his assault rifle. Now, his main mechanic that he can do is using that crossbow, as you can see right there. It can fire 2 bolts of incendiary bolts and 2 bolts of micro smoke bolts, both in which are extremely useful. Both of them, even the smoke bolts. It's crazy, huh? He also has 2 grenades to complement his arsenal. So the term has been coined that he is really good at aerial denial. I mean, he has 2 incendiary bolts that can do a ton of damage. I'm serious. It does a ton of damage. You stand in the fire for literally like 3 seconds, you will die immediately. And he also has 2 grenades to make sure that if you do happen to escape barely, he can finish you off from just a few of the explosions from his grenades. I view Capitao more as a support class because he doesn't necessarily have a lot of choices when it comes to breaching and entering, besides breaking through the windows with his weapon. Now, why is his incendiary bolts extremely useful? Well, to be frank, if there is an enemy that is camping in that far right corner and you just can't get them without having to pop your head in there, you can easily just shoot out a incendiary bolt, and the flames should spread near enough for him to get hurt, or at least scare him. Not only that they are useful for attacking, but it's also a good way to ward away the enemies that are trying to push to the objective. If your team has planted or block out a doorway, they will get scared. And also the smoke bolts work the same way by providing a nice little barrier between you and your teammates or the objective, thus making him more of an applicable operative than Caveira, in my honest opinion. I mean, he isn't necessarily as situational as Caveira. He's also a very fast operative, which is something that I can appreciate. You don't want a slow-ass operative. He's actually got one of the top speeds in the game. Now, his weapon loadouts is an assault rifle, which I mentioned earlier, the Para 308, which I personally like to use a lot better, and his LMG, which is the M249, which has a lot of ammo in his clip, but it's not, you know, it's more of a close quarters type of gun. I wouldn't use that to snipe anybody. He has one pistol, which is the PRB92, and he can have a frag grenade and a stun grenade. I highly recommend getting the frag grenades. I got so many frag kills using him that I was considered a hacker, I guess. I don't know, but it's pretty fun. You pretty much have a fairly decent option for him. He doesn't feel very limited, because I personally feel like Caveira is very limited. I mean, you can have the M12, but if you're going to use a silent step, I mean, you're pretty much stuck using your pistol if you run into an enemy, which the pistol can work just fine, but it almost feels like it doesn't matter, because the pistol up close is pretty much having a long-range shotgun without the spread. Well, not really a long-range shotgun, but a shotgun without the spread. And the M12 is a good submachine gun, which I prefer a lot more better, which is called the M12. But it's just, you know, again, when you're using the silent step, I just feel so uninclined to switch back to my submachine gun when I'm using my silent step. This entire update has me at ends. at odds ends. I mean, I feel like I like it. I like it. I like what they're trying to do with the operatives, especially with Capitao. I mean, I just feel like Capitao is just more of an applicable operative than Caveira. Caveira is very situational, and she's only useful if the enemy team is scatterbrained. If they have somebody that's going off on their own, then you can easily interrogate them. But if you have, if you're a good team and you pretty much are sticking together in groups, like groups of 2 and a 3, then your teammate can say, oh crap, I'm down, Caveira's gonna interrogate me, and then when she's interrogating you, she's in a vulnerable position and immediately could get gunned down. Or even if she does successfully interrogate your compadre, pretty much the other teammate can probably come around the corner and gun her down, because it takes a while for her to get back into momentum. I just feel like that she's not going to be useful for competitive, even though when you do get the interrogation to work, and I've seen it happen before, it's very useful. In fact, it can be considered overpowered when it works, but it's so situational that it just feels underwhelming. The map Favelas, again, I want to like it. I really want to like it. Unfortunately, it just feels too claustrophobic if you're a defender, and that the attacking side has a lot more options and more wiggle room to work with. I mean, they can either attack inside or outside. I mean, as a defender, you're worried from all sides, because Thermite can easily just punch through any wall that he really wants to. Not necessarily like only 2 walls, but still 2 walls enough to do a lot of damage with. And if you have Thatcher, then you're pretty much set. I mean, having a mute and a bandit almost makes it very useless to have them around. I feel like that Favelas is more gravitated towards attacking, like a significant amount more gravitated to attackers than defenders. I mean, the defenders, it seems like a good idea on paper that, oh man, there's so many corners and rooms that you can walk into, but it also puts them at a disadvantage as well. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, the attacking team can attack outside, and everybody's like freaking out, oh my gosh, they're outside, obviously they're outside, they're attacking from outside, and then you can have that 1 or 2 operatives from the attacking team that can enter and pretty much catch you with your pants down, unless of course you're Pulse and you pretty much have all of your corners figured out, but still it's not really that useful. So a quick synopsis: Capitao is applicable in all aspects of this game. Caveira is very situational, and Favelas is just overwhelming, and I feel like it's imbalanced for the defenders. It just needs a little bit more thought into it, and it needs to be a little less claustrophobic in close quarters, because it's just so condensed that I feel like that I need to have my head on a swivel in order for me to work around that map. Again, guys, if you guys want to let me know your opinions on this new update, let me know. But that's pretty much all I have to say. And I do like it, but it's not a big deal. I mean, when you think about it, when Blackbeard came out, Blackbeard became top attacking, like somebody who you would want to choose to be an attacker for most situations. He's very useful for most situations. Valkyrie is useful for most situations. It's crazy. And Buck, he's useful for some situations, but he's still pretty powerful with his weapons that he has on his loadout. And Frost's ability isn't necessarily that, isn't really that much of a game changer, but her weapons are extremely powerful. We all know that her shotgun is basically a sniper gun, and it's kind of bullcrap sometimes. So what makes a good operative? A good operative is when you have an ability that can either change the game or really help your team in most situations, or if you have a really good weapon set. I mean, IQ wasn't necessarily that useful until later updates, but when she first started, she wasn't really that useful, but she had some of the best assault weapons that she could carry, that she only can carry, thus making her useful than most of the operatives. And then you have Capitao, who is useful in most situations. I mean, his incendiary bolt and his smoke bolt is super supportive and super useful. And then you have Caveira, who doesn't necessarily have a good shotgun and doesn't necessarily have a good submachine gun, but she does have the ability to, you know, interrogate people, which, again, in my personal opinion, isn't necessarily that useful. And she can have silent step, which in my opinion sounds good on paper, but I just don't see myself using it that often, to a point where I'm just like, I'm gonna outsmart this guy and use silent step. I don't know, like, it just doesn't feel that way, and I haven't been in that situation where it does feel that way. When you have roamers like Pulse and Frost, they don't have the ability to silent step, and yet they do just fine roaming around without having to be quiet. That's the reason why I feel that Caveira isn't really that useful, and to change her her ability, I don't know what needs to be changed. Either give her better loadout choices or improve her abilities, because it just doesn't feel that useful in most situations. Even though it is useful when you do use it, it really does. It's just not all the time. Now, honestly, by the end of the day, these are my opinions, but I feel like I've hit the nail on the coffin, and I feel like that most people would agree with me in what I've said so far about the maps and about the operatives. Again, I'm not entirely sure what you should do exactly for Caveira, but it just doesn't feel like that she is the most useful in most situations. I'm very conflicted. Let me know what you guys think about what I've said so far. If you want to add or detract anything that I've said, what do you guys think about the map and the operatives? Now, I've probably said this over a dozen times, but go ahead and hit that like button. It really does help out this channel and this video out a lot. Go ahead and subscribe if you guys really want to see more stuff like this. I do play Rainbow Six Siege a lot. And go ahead and add this to your favorites. It will also help support this channel and the video out a lot. Now, of course, if you guys really want to, that's only if you guys feel like I deserve it, you can go ahead and donate to this channel. All the money that you guys donate will go directly towards improving this channel. Right now, I'm working a job and I'm going to school, and it's really hard for me to keep up with videos. But if I can see some more support, then I would be able to produce more videos and more content, and even better content. But I will see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.